Wine is always made with 100% grape juice, so unlike chefs who can add herbs and spices, winemakers have very few choices in how they might change the taste of the wine once they've harvested the grapes. The one exception to this is that they can choose whether or not to use oak barrels in the winemaking process, and the result changes and shifts the flavor of the wine in a very distinctive and noticeable way. Some of us love the flavor of oak barrels and tend to prefer it, being willing to pay even extra for it when we find it in a wine we enjoy. For others, we are not so keen on the taste of wood and would prefer to have our wines crisp, clean, and fresh without that influence. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to find oakier wine styles in both white and red. In the world of white wine, the vast majority of white wines are unoaked, meaning that they are fermented in stainless steel and go straight to bottle with no period of aging in wooden barrels in between. That Sauvignon Blanc here that we have from California would be a perfect example, and just the package alone, the way it's done in clear glass with this very refreshing look to it, all of this conveys to me that I can expect an unoaked style. We associate unoaked qualities with not just Sauvignon Blanc, but also grape varieties like Riesling, and also styles like Pinot Grigio are most often done as an unoaked wine, where all we taste is the freshness of the grapes in the glass. There's one exception to this rule, though. There is a grape variety in the world of white wines that we often see in an oakier category of style, and that would be Chardonnay. Chardonnay is not always barrel fermented, but it often is, and certainly when it's named on the label, we can expect to find at least some, if not a lot, of that oaky taste. When I look at this bottle of St. Francis, everything about it on a subliminal level suggests that it might be barrel fermented. Look at the darker color of the glass. That rich golden hue really suggests that we're looking at a wine that was aged in barrels. Also, the fact that we're looking at a wine that is a year older on the shelf suggests that it spent some time in the barrels before being bottled and being sent out for sale. In the glass, that distinctive buttered popcorn and dessert spice, that kind of apple cake quality that come through in Chardonnay are things we associate with oak treatment. The flavors that oak impart into wine have a lot in common with the flavors of bourbon or cognac, those other beverages that are aged in oak barrels. And so this Chardonnay almost tastes like an unoaked wine with a splash of bourbon. A little bit of that richness, that caramelization, that toasty flavor. I always like to think that the flavor of oaked wines is more like fruit that has been caramelized in a pan with butter and sugar, and less like the fresh fruit salady tastes that we get with unoaked whites. In the realm of reds, it is pretty much the opposite. Most red wine styles in the premium category have seen some oak treatment, and only a few are completely unoaked. For something to be unoaked, we generally look for the youngest, the most modest, and the lightest bodied styles of red wine. This Beaujolais is a perfect example. Not only is it the youngest red wine on the shelf with the 2010 vintage, which suggests it was not aged for a long period of time, but we also get this sappy, juicy, lively, fresh berry quality leaping out of the glass, something that is very, very much associated with stainless steel. Remember, stainless steel and unoaked retains freshness and fruitiness. When we look at the Rioja, however, we're looking at a wine that's significantly older on the shelf. See, this is a 2007 vintage, and this alone suggests to me that the wine has spent some time in oak barrels before it was bottled and released for sale. When we give the wine a swirl and a sniff, the characteristics that we found in the Chardonnay are present here as well. That toastiness, that caramelized quality, that slight scent of butter and baked goods all come through, but are perhaps less noticeable because red wines have so much more other flavor competing for our attention. We get that lovely, toasty, spicy quality here as well. Perhaps a little less reminiscent of bourbon, perhaps a little more reminiscent of cognac to me. Generally speaking, red wines are aged longer in newer barrels when they are of high quality and of high aspiration. So in the world of reds, oakiness is something we associate not with specific grape varieties, but rather with quality. As we move up the food chain into more intense, more concentrated, more long-lived, and more desirable collector's items, we move from the realm of the simple unoaked reds into those that have spent maybe 3 months, perhaps 6 months, maybe even 12 months, or up to a few years in barrels to start emerging with more of that toasty, oaky flavor.